Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, this is the test of this whole setup to see if it actually freaking works.
It might actually crash and burn.
Yeah, it might just, our laptops just catch on fire.
If this like smoke starts coming from this area, you're going to know it's not working very well.
Yeah, we're going to be screwed.
Yeah, so different format.
Yep.
And this is new for us. We've been doing the virtual, recording for 52 episodes.
Yeah.
And why not just change it up?
Why not just throw a big monkey wrench in
everything was working fine.
Everything.
We had the whole process nailed down.
Yep.
Workflow's great. You had it ultimate refined. It was efficient. And then we decided just to go ahead and screw it all up. Yeah. That's what you do, right?
That's what you do.
It's kind of like when you just say, nothing new on race day.
Yeah.
And then it's race day and we're going to put on a new pair of shoes.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just like, these carbon plated shoes, I've never ran in them. Might as well just give it a shot.
Yeah, well,
what's the worst that could happen?
Sounds like my strategy for Saturday.
I was going to bring, my wife told me to bring you some crayons so you can write out your nutrition strategy for the race.
I love it. Yeah, so that roast is getting a lot of popular review. Yeah. It's really weird how ChatGPT knows you so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It knows me apparently because it knows I screw up all my nutrition all the time.
Yeah.
And make the same mistakes twice. And so the ChatGPT thing has been a really good add to the show, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe people don't like it, but I think it's been great. And I'm just wondering, how many times did you invite Payne over for dinner?
Oh, every day.
Every day. And tuck it in bed at night. All right, good.
It's basically a staple at my house
staple. Now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
it's got its own toothbrush.
Right. That's when you know it's getting real, right? For the younger listeners out there,
that's how you know.
That's how you know.
It's got its own side to the bathroom. If you see
that toothbrush and you go, then you know it's not meant to be. It's time to just cut it off right now.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're not here for relationship advice, by the way.
Definitely.
All right. So we got some news.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we got some.
You wanna go ahead and just let everybody know, or do we want to tease it out a little bit?
No, I think it's good to know. We are going to be the official podcast for the Great Plains Gravel Cup.
Who did you blackmail to get that kind of status?
Well, when we have Bobby on, he contacted us and said, you know what, he liked what we were doing, and he wanted us to basically promote the Gravel Cup.
Yeah.
Talk about, we're gonna have a different layout and a different format to the podcast, so it'll be distinct from our normal podcast, and it will be still interviewing the race directors of each race, interviewing the winners and the points leaders, and then usually the race directors will give us probably a story from the race, a person to talk to about, their experience at that race. And I think it doesn't have to be somebody who was in the front, but it'll be somebody who we feel as, their story, like maybe they, overcome some adversity and we want to hear all about it. And could be somebody doing the 30 mile or could be somebody doing the big distance. So,
I think we've been really big on trying to promote all aspects of the race, especially the people that struggle at the back like us, and so I think it's really important that one of the things we want to make sure is we don't want to just tell the story of the winners. We want to tell the story of the event and make sure that people know, you don't have to feel the pressure of going out and racing this thing. I really am excited to see who pops up as I didn't really think I would do this kind of thing. And now all of a sudden here I am, I'm 5 races deep into the Gravel Cup. I never would have thought of doing this, and look at what I've accomplished. That's huge. I mean, that's a great story to tell, and really excited to be a part of it. And
and I think it, the spirit of gravel gets thrown around a lot, and I think this type of race, this type of series, again, it's kind of going against the spirit of gravel, but the thing that we like about these events is that the spirit of gravel is still kind of at these events. Like it's just completing the event, or maybe you don't complete the event and you have to get a lift home or something like that. That still is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
The accomplishment is just going out, towing the starting line, and seeing what you got on the day and seeing what happens.
I think that stood out to me with Bobby when he was talking about the when you think about the past of Unbound, and which was DK, and even before that, it was about the adventure.
Yep.
It was about, you didn't know what was going to happen that day. And I think to some extent that still happens with the race as it is today. You know, if you think about a few years ago with Mudbound and, you know, all the negative feedback that came with it. But I mean, the reality is that's kind of what gravel is always meant to be, is go out and ride it. And we were just talking to Bobby yesterday about a couple other things. And he mentioned when he did a recon on a route that he was putting together, and how, like 2 miles of the road was just an absolute disaster of mud and everything else. He's like, I'm all for the adventure, but there's just nothing good that's going to come out of sending people through this. So I think it still has some limits on it. You don't want to just totally just wreck people, but at the same time, like, you just don't know what's going to happen on that day. And I think that's the part that gets lost with the mass participation events, is it's about the adventure, guys. There's no guarantees on race day.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, so I think just the news of us being a part of the Gravel Cup and helping to get the word out and hopefully tell some of the stories along the way. I'm really excited about it. And I know we were kind of teasing it last week, but it's going to be super awesome.
Yeah, it gives us a chance to branch the podcast out to more listeners. Again, being more of a resource for the local scene here.
Yep.
And then just being able to share the stories other than just mine and yours and whoever else we can drag in here.
Yeah.
Experience on the race day, you know.
We were talking on our run the other day about, you know, where do we want this to go, this podcast? And we talked a lot over the last, I don't know, several months about, like, what direction do we want to take this? And we try not to, you watch a lot of podcasts in this space. I don't. Like, I try to just, I just try not to, I try to tune a lot of that stuff out. I mean, I watch things that interest me, but I just don't engage that much on it, which is really interesting because we both have different perspectives on it. And I think, but one thing we're very much aligned on is, like, what's the purpose of this podcast going forward? And this is why I'm really excited about what's coming up, is we decided we want to really focus on the local side. Like, I think there's enough people out there that tell the big national and the pro stories and all of that. There's not a lot of information about the local events. And I think the Great Plains Gravel Cup is a big piece of that. Like, there's something happening here.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that we are trying to figure out is, like, where's everybody at? We go to these events, and we talked to a couple of the race directors in past episodes about, where are the people at? Is the participation there? Is there enough momentum to keep the sport growing? Because we always hear about how popular gravel is, but is it really growing, or do you just have older people showing up every subsequent year? And I think it's a little bit of both. I think you've got some young blood, but is it enough? And there, I think what we figured out is it's not, at least what I think anyway. I'd be interested in your thoughts. Is it that people are just afraid of doing hard things? Are we just a soft society, so to speak? Or is it people just don't know about it? And we talk, how many times we say, like, you don't just wake up one day and you want to do 200 miles in the Flint Hills. That doesn't, like, most people, if you wake up one day and that's what you want to do, there might be something wrong. Like, you need to evaluate life's choices, but you kind of grow into that and it becomes the challenge. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're doing 200 miles in the Flint Hills and it's an amazing accomplishment. So how do you get people exposed to that? And I think that's what we want to do, is help people. It should not be intimidating to try to get into this. Like, let's take that barrier out of the equation. It should not be intimidating.
No. And I think that's the reason why I promote gravel and triathlon so much, is that no other communities that you go to in the racing space, or the, you know, Fondo group ride space, you can experience this level of, like, camaraderie. You know, like when we do triathlon, it's like, you know, we were at Mesa, and we were racked up right next to a guy. It was his first
one.
Yeah. And,
Hey, wait a second. Wait, that guy beat me out of the swim, by the way. Just going to say it. Like, he destroyed me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was a little disappointed, but good for him.
Right.
Like,
so it's
awesome.
it's basically these people just, these like, I picked up this bike on Craigslist and, and this is my first triathlon. I thought it would be fun. And it's just like, and basically my whole day was, every time I saw him, you become like a little band of brothers that just, your rack mates, or even when you're riding in gravel, if you're in a pack, like you're all grouped together, and basically you guys are like family now, and you're like trying to. There
are fragments of our souls out in the hills somewhere, and that bond you kind of share. Like there's no fewer than maybe a dozen people that if I walked by them on the road right now, we would probably know each other and be like, yeah, you remember when we were like struggling for that 10-mile stretch? Yeah, that was, but we made it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the stuff that is just really interesting. And I would say the other thing is the you talk about the first timers. I really like the reason that we're doing the Great Plains thing too is I really like the fact that these promoters, these race directors, are not in it. Like none of them have the belief that they're going to become millionaires off this thing. And we always talk about how one of the barriers to entry is the cost.
Yeah.
And these events are all reasonably priced. I mean, especially if you take advantage of the early signups.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned it, last week or 2 weeks ago. I registered for basically all these races except for one. It may have a conflict with 70.3 that I want to do, but I registered for all of these races for less than what I paid to get into Unbound.
Yeah.
And and that's a different topic, and we did discuss this a lot on the run this week, on our long run this weekend. But you're looking at like less than a couple $100 to do some of these races. Like most of the entry fees for these races are less than $100.
Right.
So you're like looking at like maybe $85 is the most expensive.
Yeah.
And it's like for a gravel race for, price per mile type thing. If you're coming out ahead, especially the barbed for entry on the cost front is lower.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a crazy, full carbon fiber bike. I mean, I've seen guys out there riding, Trek 3000s, steel frame, cup and cone bearings and the headsets. And they're just like, they don't have disc brakes. They have like cantilever brakes, and they're just out there with a set of, kind of decent gravel tires, and they're able to ride these rides. And the other part too is there's e-bike.
That's always an option
in these events too. So, even if you feel like, oh man, I just can't do all the hills that, that are at open range or whatever, you can still ride your e-bike the whole way. Nobody's going to sit there and be like, oh, who's this person on an e-bike,
So that I'd like for our group to take a little credit for that, because Serena helped sort of forge the trail on that with like open range, for example, where she rode it, and then all of a sudden the next year there's an e-bike division. She may not have been the first person to do it, but
no, she was. She was the first one. Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
And now I think there was like 6 or 7 e-bikes on the last year's open range.
Yeah, so. And I think that's again, it gets back to you don't have to have the state of the art equipment. And you can get how many times we talk about how the bike industry does a great job of marketing that, oh my gosh, if you don't have the latest carbon deep dish gravel wheels that have a certain internal width, to support the 47-inch tire at the most comfortable pressures and puncture resistance and all the buzzwords that they use. And it's like, so where do I get started again? And I think that's part of, where if you really want to do these things, take down the barriers, take the cost side down, and people that are like, well, I don't want to spend $4,000 on a bike, and maybe I don't even like it. Go to Facebook Marketplace, and there are no shortage of people who decide they want to get rid of their bikes for various reasons, and sometimes it's an upgrade. And how many times, like you said, you've seen these people, like, they probably don't even know what a cup and cone bearing is, and they've like, I got this bike for like $50, and it's got a good set of wheels, and I asked a couple of buddies what I needed, and they helped me get set up, and here I am.
Yeah,
awesome. That is great.
Yeah, and the best thing about this, Gravel Cup series too, is that there is the short routes in there. So like, I think at Bobby's Flint Hills, there's a 30-mile gravel ride.
Yeah.
And he's not going to take you over all the steepest hills that he can find in America, right out of the gate. It's going to be a good mix, so you get a little flavor of what's going on. So there'll probably be one challenging hill, and then a lot of it's going to be really nice gravel that he knows around the area. So it's really like, and it's the same with all these race promoters that are in this Cup series, that they're, they have multiple distances for that skill level. You have your entry level, just testing the waters. Just want to see if you even like gravel, because gravel's not for everybody.
It's not. Well, it's not, and it's I liken it to, when we first started riding a lot more gravel, and how many times we say it's like, this is like riding an indoor trainer but outside, and there's no free miles, and that can be hard. If you're a road rider and you're like, I just don't know if I really want to make things that difficult. Again, find these events, or even find your local gravel that is relatively easy. Like, just get started on it, because it's really not that much different if you're on hero gravel. It's just
some of the gravel that that these guys use. Heck, you could almost ride a road bike on with with 28 mil tires or 30 mil tires, and not have an issue with. So you could just ride your regular road bike on it.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about, again, what Bobby's doing with the Cup, and then also all of these race directors sort of coming together. And I know there's more race directors out there that, as they've kind of heard about this, they're like, oh, how do I become part of that?
Yeah.
And so, I hope that the Cup can grow a little bit too. And I'm anxious to hear what Bobby and the team have in store for it. But when we first heard about this, we were pretty amped up over it, because it felt like there was something that was needed to kind of, keep the engagement driving, and to put these races together and call it a Cup, and have, real rewards and accomplishment associated with it, is just, that's a really cool thing. And I hope that a few people get inspired to get out there and, instead of just doing one or two events, maybe they decide to do all of them this year.
Yeah.
So
which will be good.
So speaking of events, we had a listener reach out and give us a heads up on a new event that's coming up. So speaking of, hey, right there in the vein of, we want to be the local source for gravel stuff, right?
So there's a event coming up, and it's put on by I hope he's my friend. I jokingly call him Giga Chad.
The endearing term of Giga Chad.
Giga Chad. And the reason is just because the story is, if you haven't heard it, is he showed up to Open Range. He's a super awesome guy.
He's
a super awesome guy. His name's Tyler.
Yeah.
And he showed up. He didn't have his kit. He didn't have his kit. So he just wore like this like kind of cut off tee, like just going full, and he's
lifted a few weights.
Yeah, he's lifted a couple weights. He's picked them up and put them down.
Yeah, right.
So he's, he looks like, like a Giga Chad. So that's, and of course I make this name up when I see him after our last aid stop at Open Range, and I'm chasing him down, trying to get with him, so we don't have to fight so hard. So like two people sharing the load is faster than two people alone. Yeah. He thought I was one of his friends that was trying to catch him. Yeah. And so he was like, I'm not letting my friend catch him.
It'd be the same as if you thought I was
behind you. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I put the screws to you. Yeah. So he was just putting the screws to me every time. And man, I was by the,
you're like, where's this guy getting it from?
Yeah,
I'm like, a motor in that bike.
he was just every time I'd catch up, and I think I'd put in an effort, he would sense that I was close, and he would just take off. And so like we had this epic battle for like 3 hours from the last aid stop at Open Range, and he ended up beating me at the line, or he definitely crossed the line like a minute before me, but
Yeah.
I was determined to try to catch him, and
Yeah.
he was determined to try to lose me.
That's
so
right.
I think he basically was just going like, I can't let my friend get him. And
Just imagine how easy that race could have been in the last 3 hours
Oh.
if we had team radios and his team had just told him,
Yeah.
dude, you're good. This
You're
guy
good.
is not looking to beat you at the
Yeah.
line. He just wants some help to
he
get
just
in.
he just doesn't want to be out there by himself, and he just wants to share some work and just kind of, because for me, a lot of that race was me riding by myself.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, at the end of that race, I've been out there for 6 hours by myself. I think we rode with a group to the first aid station.
Okay.
But after that, it was basically, I was by myself for the rest of the day. And so I was just like, man, I want somebody to please just let up so we can share the work and stuff. So, but he's putting on a gravel event called Dirty Gravel Disco.
Okay.
And he's putting it on. It's March 1st.
All
It's he's the owner of
Peddlers, right?
Peddlers in Wichita.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and share this screen, and I want to say, everybody, please sign up for this. I know it's in March.
Yeah.
And it's the weather can be a little bit dicey for sure.
Yeah.
In that time frame.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get, but he has multiple distances. So he's got a 100-miler, a 50-miler, and a 30-miler, and it's all out of El Dorado, Kansas.
Nice.
So get down there. It's going to be like probably the first event of the year.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to a good cause. They're raising money for a good cause.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, check them out. If you're in Wichita, definitely go to a shop, support local for sure.
Definitely.
And check it out, because I'm pretty sure I'll probably be there. I don't know if Danny might have some work stuff that you might have to do, but if anything, we'll definitely try to be there and support him any way we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. One of the listeners reached out and told me about it. But that's exactly what we're talking about, guys. Like, reach out to us, let us know if we're missing events. Like I said, it's so hard to find out what's going on in this.
It's usually just word of mouth.
It's word of mouth. Yeah. So the listeners, know more than us two jabronis right here. So please let us know.
Yeah.
And we're more than happy to promote stuff like that, especially, local events like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you mentioned the weather. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how March 1st shakes out. It's always a roll of the dice. But,
what's that old saying, like, in like a lion, out like a lamb, or in like a lamb, out like a lion. So I think if it's in like a lamb, it'll be a great day. If it's going to be in like a lion, I may be doing the shorter course. But the thing is these events and putting on these events, remember, these guys aren't driving Bentleys and stuff like that. They're putting it on because they feel and they know that they have some quality roads out there in that area, and they want to showcase them for everybody. So support these events, register for these events as soon as you can, so that the race promoters know that you can, what to plan for and get, and just, help out the local scene and the growing for sure.
I'm just excited to see there's another race option out there.
Yeah.
And I know, again, that's early in the year, but the reality is you only get faster by going faster.
Yep.
And races make you go faster. Whether you actually are there to race or not, you tend to go faster in races. And I've seen that where people are like, oh, I'm just going to go out and just enjoy a nice casual ride. Next thing you know, they got that number plate on the front of their bike, and what do? They start pedaling harder than they ever have before. But yeah, it's gonna be fun to see how that event turns out. And I got to check a couple of things on the schedule, and if I can make it, even if I can just make it down there, if I'm not able to ride it, I'd love to just come down and see the area. But yeah, it's going to be fun, and I'm anxious. Hopefully, we can get him on the show and let him talk a little bit more about it and promote it, and just right around the corner. We're less than a month away.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, 28 days, man.
I know. I'm really just looking forward to more warm weather.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be nice to have.
Yeah, we had
So,
like our first warm day, and
Yeah.
it was nice. I got a lot of texts from my athletes and stuff, and just be like, "I'm ready to train, and I'm ready to get back at it." I'm like, it's amazing what that first
isn't that something?
warm day will like get you.
Yeah, you get like I mean, we were out yesterday. We didn't get a chance to do a ride or anything, but we were outside, and I was like, it's a really nice day. It'd be fun to be out on the bike. It might still be a little cool, but yeah, just the energy it gives you, and man, I can't wait. So excited. Unfortunately, we got another couple of weeks of cold weather. So.
Yeah. So check out Dirty Gravel Disco for sure.
And then we've got our own event coming up. We're getting ready to take off, you know, for Arizona, right?
Yeah.
The big Mesa half marathon.
So
how you feeling?
I'm a little bit worried, I guess. I mean, I'm not worried about finishing it. I'm just worried about my paces and stuff like that. So it was, you know, again, I had high hopes of, you know, having some good fitness, but again, I got sick. So,
you know, the thing is we typically use this type of thing for, you know, for cross training, and it's really hard. Like, we're not natural runners by any means.
No,
you know, it's like, what's the joy in running? I'm like, I'm still looking for it. But
yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's fun once you're out there. It can be okay. But I will say, I think the half marathon, I'm ready for it to be here and done. I'm kind of over the long runs right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm ready to get into gravel season. Sure. More gravel training. I've been riding on the trainer, of course, just keeping my fitness, but it's going to be nice to, you know, get in some more specific training, especially for what's coming up. But yeah, the half marathon at Mesa, it's a relatively nice course. It's flattish, mostly like kind of downhill. So there's, you know, there's a little bit of a little slight downhill, and then a little bit flat section around mile 10, and then downhill into the finish. But you're looking at like a couple 100 feet, but it's,
I mean, just looking at that, I'm like, that's better than anything we got around here.
Yeah.
So. You mentioned the paces, and I'm just wondering, are you going to go out at 650?
You know, I thought about it.
Yeah. I'm just kind of wondering.
I thought I'll start at 650 and see what it feels like, and then go from there. No, like I said, I think my PR, you know, my last half marathon PR is like 149. So I'd like to start with the 145 group, and see if I can go from there. And then, you know, if it works out and I get, you know, 148, I'll be happy. If I get 155, I'll still be happy.
You know, I had a bit of a moment the other day. I got taken by one of the social media posts. Where I'm like, I don't fall into these traps, but there was a post out there. It's like, do you know the average race times for finishers at different distances? Like, and it's like 5K, like 17 minutes. You know, 10K is like 36 minutes. Half marathon, it was like hour 15 minutes, and like marathon, it was like, you know, 2:30 or something like that. I'm like, that can't be. I'm like, God, like, how bad am I? And of course, then you click on it to see more, and of course, just kidding. Here are the real numbers. But I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I really that slow? But of course, the real numbers are much like double that. Like, the real numbers for like a half marathon average finish time is like, you know, 2.5 to 3 hours, which is crazy because, you know, and everybody's at their own pace. But like, this is why I don't like to compare times too much, because it's like, you know, it's not about the time, it's about the event and the finish. Like, if it was about the time, I would be talking about podiums, you know. And it's about a personal record, and it's not going to be, you know, if it's not a bad day or there isn't a tragic circumstance on the course for my race nutrition, you know, I should be able to beat my PR, and that's all I really care about.
Yeah.
So where I finish in the grand scheme of things, it's like, man, if I'm middle of the pack, I'm happy, but it's really just about how am I competing with myself.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is for me too. It's not like I'm looking to, you know, set any world records or anything. I'm not a world-class runner, but you know, if we can,
I thought you were.
if we can just do better than we did the last time, I think that'll be great. So
well, that was the goal at the marathon last year.
Yeah.
And our training was less than perfect, by all accounts, less than perfect. And we both managed a PR marathon last year. So, I mean, the training this year for the half marathon was much, much better, I think, than the marathon training was last year. In fact, I almost feel like if we had thrown a couple more long runs in there, we probably could have went out and ran the marathon this year.
Yeah.
You know, and had a pretty good. So, I mean, because we tried a whole different plan. We had a lot more speed work in there and that sort of thing. It was, I think it was a really good plan. I'm excited to see how it pays off and then use that plan again as a base and maybe make some adjustments for a possible marathon later this year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was consistently like 40-mile weeks, and that's more than what I usually put in a marathon plan. Right. So it was.
I know there's some runners out there going 40. I mean, what about 80? Like, well, I'm not that fast. Okay?
Right. I'm not that fast, and my body does not
I don't think
appreciate
there's not enough sunlight in
the
the day for me to get 80 miles a weekend.
Yeah.
So, but you know, it's going to be fun. And the way we look at this is any chance you get to go to Arizona in February and grab an In-N-Out burger. That's a day. That's a good day right there.
Did you look at the temps yet?
No. What do we got?
75 on race day.
I did see, was it a couple of days ago? I did take a peek just at the low temp because I'm like, last year, remember the last year?
It was colder there than it was here.
Yeah.
And
I
was so
upset.
This at home. Yeah.
You know, and it was raining.
Yeah.
And that was like, good gracious. But this year I didn't see the high. I just saw the low because I didn't want to peek that far ahead. The low was like 50. Yeah. Overnight low. I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be golden, like perfect running temps.
Yep.
And maybe by the time I'm done, it'll only be like 60, I hope, because hopefully the sun, because it starts pretty early.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, so the sun won't be too high, and hopefully the weather holds up. And oh my gosh, I can't wait.
I know. So, I'm getting excited. It's that excitement for the first race of the year, you know, and you're just kind of like, all right, now the season starts. It's the season kickoff.
Yeah. So we're actually recording this. We're going to be, when this actually comes out, we'll be in Arizona.
Yep.
And so we'll have to tell everybody about how it went when we get back next week. But it's going to be a good time. I can't wait. I really can't wait. So
yeah, cool. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So speaking of all that, we decided to fire up our good buddy
ChatGPT.
And so, you know, just want to know. ChatGPT wants to know, not me. This is ChatGPT. Now ChatGPT is the one asking the questions.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they want to know, like, what are the most difficult questions about you know, being ready for your upcoming half marathon. And so there's a couple of topics here that I'm going to ask you, and I want to get your reaction on.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. So around your mindset here. So how much of your race strategy is just an excuse to play it safe?
I think so. That's great. So like, I think in every race strategy, there's you kind of base off of how you're feeling and how you've seen your execution of like your hard runs during the week.
Yeah.
And so right now, like I would say that I'm playing it more safe than I'm taking the risk of smashing my PR.
Yeah.
So, if you were betting, right?
Yeah.
If there was a FanDuel bet on Travis's
the
smashing
the FanDuel run of destiny.
Yeah, run of destiny. If you were betting on that, you would bet that I would not smash or I wouldn't beat my PR.
Yeah.
Just because right now, like mentally,
where
I'm at, I'm more in the let's play it safe, let's get close to the number, but it really is going to be one of the race day type things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I talk about, I tell my athletes there's no miracles on race day.
Yeah.
But race day gives you the chance to express fitness and sometimes transcend some of your fitness. Yeah. And if you're having a really good race, there's a chance that you can transcend and there's a chance that I can beat my PR.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not betting on that. Like, I'm not counting on it going like, it's definitely going to happen. No, it's going to be one of those things that like, I'll start with the 145 pace group and I'll start making my decisions whether or not to completely bury myself or not by mile 6 or so.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm in a similar situation, although I mean, my prior PR was set on a training run for Ironman.
Yeah.
You know, and so, because I just haven't run. I've only the only half marathon race I've ran was 3 years ago, and that was the first half marathon I did, and the only individual half marathon I've done. Obviously, the ones in half Ironman in Des Moines a couple years ago, but I do think that given the last PR was on a training run, I should be able to beat my PR. That's why I was saying it's like if I don't beat my PR, then something went wrong, like really sideways. But that being said, much like you, like I have this aspiration of being closer to that 145, and just knowing how the training has gone, I'm not sure if that's entirely possible. What I think I'll probably do is just go out at the pace that I know will beat my PR. I'll go out at that pace because I should be able to handle that, and then ratchet it up from there. And much like you, like to me, like once you get inside of what you think is an hour, like, okay, now it's time. Do I have an hour of threshold in me?
Yeah.
And just hammer it home, you know, and maybe try to do a negative splits or something like that to keep the you know, kind of keep the momentum up. But man, I'm just looking to have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what that's what I think it really has to come down to. So.
Yeah. And that's the hard part about these early season races. I mean, we've ran a couple of runs inside the caves, so there's not really good pacing. So I don't know how hard that is. We were running yesterday, and you know I pushed the pace a couple of times on our long run, and the heart rate looked good, and the pace looked okay. Yeah. And so you don't know if the legs have it,
right?
You know, so you're just like, because again, it's like kind of an easy long run, so we're not holding it for a long time. So
4, 5, 6 miles, right?
Yeah, we're just holding it for like, I don't know, to get over a hill or get down a hill or something like that. So
yeah. So on the training failures, since it's, I mean, this is brutal, man.
Yeah.
So what's the laziest thing you did during training that you hope doesn't bite you in the backside?
I think I skipped like 2 key workouts, I guess. So I think I didn't do 2 weeks ago's interval workout.
The interval run, that's right.
Yeah. And then I want to say like 4 or 5 weeks ago I didn't do the interval run. Yeah.
So is that also like the dumbest training thing you did?
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny because like,
it's one thing to skip workouts, and I tell my athletes this too, is like you kind of like prioritize workouts.
Yeah.
And those interval runs and your long runs are kind of like your A workouts for the week.
Right.
And when you skip those, you're cutting yourself out of anything. Like if you're going to skip something, skip the easy ones.
Yeah. Never skip the cornerstone.
Yep.
Kind of important. That's why I call it the cornerstone.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, you know, it's what I did, and we'll see how it pays off.
So now race day reality here. So, and I say reality. So like, how are you going to react when I pass you?
Oh, I'm gonna be like, really? It took you this long?
Remember last year?
Yeah.
So I love this one. So last year we were pretty much running side by side. I think you pulled ahead a couple of times, not far, and then I caught you, and then we just kind of ran close to each other for the first half, and then you had to stop off at the halfway point for a restroom break, and I was starting to feel it. Like I wasn't sure like that. And I told you then, I was like, I think don't worry, you're going to catch me. You'll see me. And then, and then I was
never
gone,
saw
never
him
saw me again. And I remember you saying like, oh, every single hat I thought I saw was you. And I was like, no. So yeah, you just can't worry about that stuff. Race your race, right? I mean, that's a pretty common thing.
I'm going to be super stoked if you pass me for sure. And like, it'll just be like, I mean, you put in a lot of a better block than I did. So
we'll see. So what's going to, I already know the answer to this, but normally, so what's going to hurt you more, your legs or your ego?
Oh, my legs.
Legs for sure. On this one. Yeah. So, all right. So a little self-reflection here. All right. What's the biggest lie you tell yourself about running?
That I love it.
That it's fun.
It's so funny. My mom will call and she'll ask, you know, what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I'm getting ready for a run. And she's like, I know. She's like, I thought you hate running. I was like, no, I love it. And she's like, so now she jokes with me. She's like, oh, you're going to do your most favorite thing to do in the whole world.
Yeah, right.
You love running.
Yeah. So. You know what I need. So we had Britta on the show. It's been a while now. We need to get her back on.
I got to get her back on.
But she, you know, sold us, tried to sell us hard on how fun this running thing is. And I got to say, I'm a year later and I'm not sure I'm finding it. Now, I'd say that, and all kidding aside, like, because I think this training block has had some more interval work in it, it's definitely the type 2 fun where
Yeah.
you get done with that hard stretch of interval, or, you know, in this case, we had some pretty long, like, threshold runs and VO2 max runs, which, getting done with those and, type 2 fun for sure, because like knowing that those paces were faster than I typically run, like that was fun. So
Yeah.
I will say it's been a little bit more entertaining, but you saw how hard it was for me to get out of the car the other day and go do just an 8-mile run. I was like, oh, just ready to be done.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I think any training block, you get to that last week and if you put in decent work, you're kind of like to the point where you're just like, ugh, I just want to get over and done with this race. And I think that might be the way I feel about, most races. Like it's the same thing when, leading up to a big event like Unbound or something like that.
Yeah.
You're just like, you put in all this training and now you have to just kind of, you're checking boxes, the leading up to the race. And you're just like, oh, I just want the race to start. Why can't it start today instead of tomorrow?
I think that's the other thing too, is the we're in the taper block, right? Or the 2 weeks of taper roughly. And you kind of I worry still about like, oh, I just, the fitness loss and that kind of stuff. I've kind of gotten past that from all the cycling. Like I just don't worry about it. But like you were saying, like before we entered into the taper, we had a hard interval run just last week. And even the training plan said this is going to be hard. Like it's going to feel hard because you've got a lot of fatigue built up on your body. And then no matter how many times I get told that, I'm like, man, it still like feels harder than it should be. Like, should it really be this hard?
Yeah.
And then I think the reality is just got to get to that point where it's like, it is what it is. You trust that your taper is going to get your fatigue shed. And I've even backed off some of my bike this week because I'm like, I just need to recover.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that by this time next week, when the race is done, I realized that, the taper was worth it and I didn't lose all the fitness. And, maybe it is just a function of, hey, all that fatigue builds up and the motivation starts to drop. No matter how much you fight it, it still is a problem.
Yeah.
So
I think that's quality of, to show like that it's an appropriate amount of training stress. Like if you're feeling fatigued and tired and you don't want to do this anymore and you're like 8 weeks from your race, like that's an issue.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the other thing too is the work, the quality work that is actually going to contribute to a better race day is done in that, that 8 weeks before the race, and that's what you have to remember. So if you came into that 8-week block and you had 6 solid weeks of work throughout that time, like the work is done.
Yep. The hay's in the barn.
The hay's in the barn. So just trust it, and that's hard. Again, it's hard to do because especially when running's not the primary sport. So I always, like, every little thing I kind of overanalyze. So that's all right. All right. So I think that's all the questions because, the most of these are
oh wait, here I'll
you got
this
one?
one's for you.
Oh, geez.
If you don't PR, does that mean you wasted months of training?
Yes. Yes. No.
I'm a failure. I need to lock
yeah.
it all up, shut it all down.
I don't think of it that way. Like, because again, this is all cross training. Like if running was my primary sport, like let's apply that question to a bike. If I get to Unbound and I don't have mechanicals, I just have a straight clean race, right?
And you don't beat the sun.
And I don't beat the sun, and there were no other extenuating circumstance, then I'm going to be pretty freaking upset about that because I'm like, what did I do? Like, where did the training break down and why? And then it'll send me into that little spiral of like questioning all these decisions that were made and did I follow the right plan? And for the run, I'm like, the benefit of this is like I'm using this as cross training. It's building up some really good muscular endurance and all the stuff I need for gravel season. So that's all I care about. I think that again, if this were my primary sport, I would, and this were like the A race in my primary sport, I'd be pretty upset. Yeah.
Well,
for sure.
I think if it was an A race, I think you and me are kind of alike. If we're going into an A race, like we know for a fact
Yeah.
that PR is going to get smashed.
Yeah.
Like and barring, if I said,
Yeah.
this half marathon is my A race and I'm going to smash that PR,
Yep.
barring my leg getting ripped off by a
Right.
javelina in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I would be smashing that PR. And I think that's how I approach, these A events is the training leading up to it. You're going to know, 6 to 8 weeks,
Yeah.
whether or not
Yeah.
the goal that you set for yourself is attainable. And
When did I tell you that that I wasn't gonna? I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna hit the 8-minute mile paces that I thought I was. It was like 6 weeks ago because we did one of those. We did one of those interval runs, and I was like, that pace just isn't gonna be there.
yeah,
Like,
it's just a little too hard.
Yeah.
you know, and it's a little too hard to hold. It wasn't a little too hard to hold, and you get this with the more experience you get too, is in training and doing stuff is you'll go out at let's say you're on a bike or something and you're like, okay, I need to hold 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going to ride that and you'll ride that for let's say 40 minutes or so. And your race is, 4 hours long or something like that.
Yeah.
So then you're going to go, this was really hard for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So the 4 hours that I'm going to have to hold this or however long, that's going to be a little too hard. So you're going to know 6 to 8 weeks before. But yeah, I was sick then, so I had no idea what the heck I was going to do. I knew it was just no, the PR is not going to happen. So we're just gonna retrain and get back on the running after stuff and see if I can't, PR the half marathon later in the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and we talked about this. So here we are. We admit how much we seem to dislike running, yet we keep signing up for the events, Travis. There's what is it with this? I don't know why we keep doing it, but we do.
Yeah. So, I can't, I thought about this the other day too. And it was like my ADHD and stuff. I can't be a single sport athlete. As much as I love cycling, I can't do it just all the time.
Yeah.
So I need some kind of, kind of filler workouts.
Right.
And so running is kind of good. I know I'm never going to be world class, but I still run. And I think it's, it's one of those things you kind of work on your weaknesses and
that's a really elaborate way to say that you actually like running.
Yeah, no, I don't like it. You know me, it's like you call me up and you're like, hey, you want to go for a run? It's like, I don't want to. But it's like, you want to go for a bike ride? I'm already out here, man.
So when I call you, usually it's like, yeah, I'll go. But if I message you and then I get the 3 dots, endless, it goes on for 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm like, he's having that internal debate with himself right now. He's like, yes, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. But and then all of a sudden it comes out, yes. All right. So
yeah, after I fight myself for 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the good news is after this, it's full on bike season.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm really pumped for that. So cool.
Good. Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Right.
So
well, here we go. First one in person. Wrapping it up.
One. Yeah. Wrapping it up.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.